Warning, this video contains spoiler alerts.
In this series, we'll be looking at every movie in the Godzilla franchise, from 1954 to 2024, and learn about the many monsters who were introduced. The Godzilla franchise comprises of 33 official Japanese movies, 5 official US adaptations, and 5 other movies for Rodan and Mothra. For those not familiar with the events and characters in the franchise, this series will help you get familiar with them. Now for the third movie of the franchise, Godzilla vs. Mothra, 1964. It started with a typhoon that tore down power lines, washed away festival decorations and stands, and was flooding the area. The waters entered the streets and washed a boat onto land. After the storm, the area was being drained through pumps and dumped back into the ocean. A reporter, Ichiro Sakai, and his photographer, Junko Nakanishi, came to the scene to write his next article. A man came to see Sakai about the articles he wrote about a project deadline set by the board. No one was impressed by his bluff that the project will continue for the deadline. Sakai came to see if Junko got any pictures, but they discover something strange and glowing that washed up to shore during the typhoon. On a beach, a giant monster egg washed up and a crowd of people went to see it. A businessman, Komayama, sent his men to investigate the egg and a helicopter passed overhead. The egg was brought ashore and everyone looked like ants around the egg. Sakai and Junko came to see the egg and met a scientist who could not identify what the egg was. Komayama claimed that he bought the egg and those who want to see it had to pay a fee. Sakai and Junko went to Professor Miura to discuss their situation of Komayama buying the egg. Sakai promised to help Miura with the authorities if he reported it, but Miura refused, knowing that it was a waste of time. They saw Komayama at the same hotel Miura was staying at and he went to meet Torahata about the signed contract for ownership of the egg. They looked over the plans for Happy Land but then heard some voices telling them to return the egg. 2 fairies appeared to them to ask them to return the egg, but they tried to capture the fairies instead. The fairies then left. Sakai called Junko and Miura to tell them that he found out who Torahata was. Torahata was a powerful man with influence who hid behind the scenes, controlling everything, and has connections to powerful politicians. He was an exploiter. The fairies then appeared to them, asking for them to return the egg. They came from Mothra Island, where an atomic testing after the war left the island in ruin, and the egg washed away into the sea during the hurricane. It showed that the egg was buried inside the soil near the edge of the water, but the rain uncovered the egg and exposed it to the outside. The fairies said that the natives were praying for the egg's return because it was important to the island. They said that the egg will hatch a larvae and it will cause trouble when finding food during its time here while on its way back to Mothra Island. The natives of the island only desired peace and wanted to prevent the egg from hatching. They were then introduced to the thing. Sakai, Junko, and Miura went to Komayama and Torahata to reason with them to give the egg back. But Torahata tried to deny their knowledge of him and Komayama tried to get them to bring a lawyer. Then they saw the 2 fairies they were trying to catch last night. The fairies tried to reason with them one last time, but Komayama insisted on buying them. Sakai then left with Junko and Miura, with Komayama still insisting that he should buy the fairies from them. The fairies then left. Writing an article for public opinion and using the law were both useless to them. They went to look for the thing and found the fairies leaving with it. The fishermen came to Komayama for their remaining money after hearing rumors, but he refused them and told them to leave. He called to tell Torahata about the fishermen, but Torahata refused to give them the money and denied that the exhibition was delayed. Torahata tried to get him to use his shares in the company as collateral and Komayama agreed. Sakai and Murata look at the articles they made against Happy Enterprise, but Sakai admitted defeat trying to gain public opinion on the matter with the egg since it added more to Happy Enterprise's publicity and newspapers had a limited reach. Murata then got a phone call. In a factory, Komayama attempted to hatch the egg. Sakai and Junko went to meet Miura and were put into cleansing tubes because they were radioactive. This was due to the strange object they found. They went back to the field it was in but found no signs of radioactivity. The man from before, who came to see Sakai at the flood zone about an article he wrote, came to check on his project's production and found them there testing for radioactivity. He did not want them there because they would be delaying production. Miura decided that they should leave and Sakai went to get Junko. But Junko said that she saw the land moving every time she tried to get a picture. Everyone gathered when they noticed the land moving too, like waves, and steam was coming out of it. It showed high signs of radiation and the steam stopped. Then Godzilla rose from the ground. Everyone ran away and an emergency broadcast was sent to all radio and television channels. Godzilla made his way towards a factory and destroyed it with his tail and atomic breath. Everyone was to evacuate when Godzilla entered the city. His tail then got stuck inside a tower, but he pulled it out, causing the tower to fall. Godzilla reached the castle, but slipped and knocked into the castle, destroying it as he tried to get up. He then left for the wilderness. The military decided to use a new missile on Godzilla but needed a good location due to how powerful the weapons were. The US sent its fleet into battle and fired at Godzilla, who was walking along the coastline. But Godzilla was only thrown off his feet and was able to get back up. Murata asked Sakai if he knew what they should do against Godzilla, but Sakai said that it was a military decision and not up to him to decide. Murata did not think that the military could protect them from Godzilla. Another reporter, Jiro, suggested that they ask the Thing for help against Godzilla. But they had no way of getting in contact with the fairies since they just appeared to them. They decided to go to Mothra Island to talk to the Thing and the fairies and to get them to help stop Godzilla. They arrived on the island, everything looking grim and lifeless. They continued further onto the island and were soon surrounded by the natives. They were taken to the rest of the tribe and met the tribal chief. They were given something to drink and drank it. The tribal chief refused to help them and wanted them to suffer and have their lands go to ruin like theirs were. They then heard the fairies singing and followed it to a hidden underground garden. The fairies said that they could not help because they did not help them get the egg back. They said that they could not trust them because their people had offended them. Junko and Sakai were able to convince them to lend them their aid and they heard Mothra. They followed the fairies onto the top of the island and found Mothra in a large cave. The natives joined them and Mothra agreed to help them with the little strength she had since her time was almost up. When the egg hatched, she will be reborn. Back in Japan, the military prepared a strategy to take down Godzilla. They planned on using artificial lightning to confine Godzilla. If it did not work, they will cover Godzilla in a metal net to conduct the artificial lightning into him. This was their last defense. The construction teams got to work and soon Godzilla was being attacked by military tanks. Sakai, Junko and Miura came to where the egg was with 2 soldiers. Jiro was also there. Komayama came to see Torahata because he lost everything after listening to him. He attacked Torahata and went to where all the money was. He started filling the cash into a bag and Torahata tried to stop him. Torada was thrown off but then noticed Godzilla from outside his window. He shot Komayama and saw Godzilla coming closer towards them. He grabbed all the money but he did not make it out alive. Godzilla killed him when he destroyed the hotel. Godzilla arrived at the egg and used his tail to destroy the structure it was in. The egg was exposed, but the thing came in time to stop Godzilla. Mothra flapped her wings to create strong winds to distract Godzilla, destroying the surrounding infrastructure. She blew the rest of the structure that was surrounding the egg away and pushed Godzilla away from the egg. The egg was also rolling away because of the powerful winds, but some rocks blocked its path. Mothra grabbed onto Godzilla's tail and pulled him far away from the egg. Godzilla tried to use his atomic breath but kept missing. Mothra started to overwhelm him with her attacks and he fell over. He tried to get up and released a yellow dust that was poisonous to get her to stop. He was still struggling to get up and frantically fired off his atomic breath to stop her from pinning him down with the wind pressure from her wings. His atomic breath was able to burn part of her wing and she crashed into the ground, not able to stay airborne. Mothra tried to get back into the air but was grounded. She then got airborne and dodged Godzilla, causing him to roll down the hill. Mothra felt her life force draining away and flew over to the egg to give it the last of her energy. The fairies said that Godzilla can be killed once the egg hatches. The military moved into action and began their plan. They attacked him from both land and air and lured him to the high-tension wires. They turned on the power and the artificial lightning struck Godzilla in his head. But Godzilla persisted and destroyed the artificial lightning generator. The military then retreated. Back at the egg, the fairies began to sing to hatch Mothra from the egg so she can fight Godzilla, and the natives also performed the ceremony needed to hatch the egg. Godzilla then arrived at the second attack point and the military surrounded him. Planes dropped bombs on him and then helicopters came with a metallic net. They dropped the net on Godzilla and used the artificial lightning generators to keep a steady flow of electricity going into him. They dropped a second net, further intensifying the electric current. Then a third net and Godzilla struggled to get them off of him. Godzilla fell over in pain, still struggling against the nets and electric currents. They increased the voltage, ensuring that Godzilla remained pinned down. But then the generators broke, causing the electric currents to stop and giving Godzilla enough time to use his atomic breath to destroy the generator. He also melted the military tanks so they would not follow him and get in his way. In a coastal town, the people were being evacuated but there were still children and a teacher stuck on an island. A man tried to get the boats to leave for the island, but Godzilla then appeared right behind the hill, looking down at them. Godzilla then began destroying the town to vent his anger and frustration for what the military did to him. The ceremony and the fairies singing continued and the egg began to hatch. 2 larvae hatched from the egg. Sakai, Junko and Miura then headed to Iwa Island to stop Godzilla because a teacher and children were trapped there. The teacher guided the children to a safe height while Godzilla was already in the water, heading towards the island. The 2 larvae then headed towards Godzilla and fought him in the water, while the others went to rescue the teacher and children. Godzilla stepped foot onto the island and watched the 2 larvae coming towards him. He tried to put some distance between them by using his atomic breath to set the town on fire. The larvae tried to circle around the burning town to get to Godzilla. The teacher and children hid in a cave and the boats circled around the island to get to them. The larvae were able to surround Godzilla and one of them grabbed onto the tip of his tail. Godzilla tried to shake it off but it did not budge. It kept holding on. He then slammed his tail into the ground and was freed from the larvae's grip. He then started to beat the larvae with his tail while the other looked on, hiding in a cave. The larvae then started spraying Godzilla with webbing while he was distracted, but was sent back into hiding when Godzilla used his atomic breath on him. Both larvae went to surround him again when he was distracted and continued spraying him. They tried to trap him inside a cocoon. While Godzilla was distracted, Sakai and the others came to the cave and rescued the teacher and students. Godzilla kicked rocks and blasted his atomic breath at the two larvae to stop them so he could get free. His tail knocked over piles of rocks while he was blinded and the cocoon was becoming thicker for him to break through. Godzilla then fell down and rolled off the cliff into the sea. The teacher and children all returned to the mainland safely and the two larvae returned to Mothra Island. Well, Komayama and Torahata, you just got to hate them. This is what happens when greed outweighs common sense. They wanted to keep a kaiju egg out in the open in the territory of an apex predator who was sleeping in the sand right down the coastline? They lost all senses just for more money and refused to give the egg back for their own safety. That egg, Mothra's egg, was basically a Godzilla magnet out on display. I'm so glad those two idiots died in the movie since they caused this mess. Godzilla vs. Mothra, also known as Godzilla vs. the Thing, is a movie about two corrupt businessmen who thought it was a good idea to profit on a Titan egg. How was that a good idea if you were just going to leave it on display as the new mascot for a company? Why not sell it for an even bigger profit to a research institution or something? These guys were just too simple-minded and short-sighted. But it was interesting to see the story from this perspective. This aspect of the story reintroduced us to Mothra and the two larvae that were meant to replace her, and Mothra Island, or Infant Island. In the next movie, we'll be introduced to King Ghidorah and reintroduced to Rodan. Be sure to like and subscribe for more. Until next time.